Nick joined the CITB in 2015 as Partnerships Director, is responsible for leading CITB's work with partner organisations and employers across London and the south of England, including, of course, us here in the southwest. Nick leads a partnership team of 28 CITB colleagues, which will help construction employees get the skilled workforce they need. What are you going to do Tuesday? Anyway, Nick, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for those words of welcome. I was going to start with an introduction, but you've done that for me. But also, I did want to go slightly off my script and just say well done to Mark for what you just said and how you said it. And you gave us a lot of information there, lots to think about, but I think something that's essential to our future well-being in this sector, and it's really heartening and positive in the way that you dealt with it and presented it to us. So thank you very much. Also, thank you to Emma and to Andrew for the opportunity to talk to you and to be here today. And also a well done to them in bringing everybody together. I think one of the tendencies I've got is to look at the agenda and think, oh, I'm going to hear from so-and-so next, and then they're going to say this and they're going to say that. But in fact, as Andrew, I think you alluded to in your remarks earlier, I think you did, that the value of events such as this aren't just in necessarily the topics and the presentations, but also the opportunities to meet other people and to find out from other people what they're doing, spend time with other people. That's that precious commodity of time, isn't it? So a well done to Emma, to Andrew and their team, not just in terms of pulling the logistics and the event together, but also in bringing us all together as champions of the construction sector in its various shapes and guises across the southwest. On that note of the agenda, I'm billed, I think, as talking about challenges and opportunities. A couple of things to say. Firstly, I think Andrew was very eloquently in his remarks given us the headline challenges. I would take issue, actually. I don't think we are in shit creek, or up shit creek, or whatever the right phrase should be. I like your analogy of the paddle. I think that's a good one. But I don't think as a sector we are up shit creek. Pardon? Oh, okay. And it was a great photo. But I think we have lots of challenges, of course we do, and rather than throw the word around, to see the pictures of Grenfell is just just brings it home and is very upsetting and very concerning on personal levels for all of us, I know. So lots of challenges, of course, but lots of opportunities, and I've got one specifically that I will highlight for us all as I get towards the end of my input. No slides from me, and there's two reasons for that. The first reason is I like to sort of put my information and presentation in the context of what others have said. So obviously not having necessarily seen everybody else's contributions until today, I wanted to make sure my content related and was in the flow, if you like, of the information. And also PowerPoint. I'm not sure about PowerPoint. I think present company accepted, forgive me. It can be really well used. I don't think I'm very good at using it, so I'm sort of challenging myself in a learning way as well to be much more natural, instinctive in the Myers-Briggs scale and so on. Some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that you would expect me to talk about being from CITB are clearly focused around skills. I think there's a couple of headline messages that I would want to give you, and if nothing else, please hold on to these. I think our previous speakers, and I'm sure our future speakers, will absolutely demonstrate to all of us that this isn't just about skills, this is actually about people. And skills is just one aspect of what we do. And that's a real, I'll say, struggle in a positive way for CITB, because we are seen as being a skills organisation, and of course we can deliver lots of skills to lots of people in lots of places at lots of times in lots of ways and so on. But in fact what counts is how those people then go away and apply those skills and use those skills in the work that they do to the benefit of themselves and of their business that they work for. And in fact, the critical things here aren't necessarily about the skills. They are, as Mark talked about, very much about behaviour and culture. So please don't see what I'm saying from a CITB point of view as saying skills are bad or anything of that sort. I'm just exhorting us all to see skills as just one component of a much bigger set of issues, opportunities, productivity we talked about earlier, we heard about diversity, Mark was very clear on, Brexit and the challenges and opportunities that that brings. So of course CITB is a and the skills body, that's quite right, but our work depends on and relates to a whole host of other things that businesses must be doing and the sector must be doing, as Andrew referred to in his comments as well. And I think the critical thing here again is about the skills that we provide in that context, not just simply being about the here and now and the reactive. Of course, we can train as many numbers of people doing as many numbers of things as we want and as we need on this glorious Friday in June. What we really must be about, though, in terms of industry behaviour as a whole and skills in its place within that industry, is being about future-looking and thinking ahead. So we must imagine ourselves in a future state that Andrew and Emma have described to us and say, okay, what skills and what people will we need in order to be able to get us there and to perform effectively, productively, and to the best of our abilities as businesses when we get there. One of my other comments, and again, previous speakers have talked about this, which is good because it hopefully means that this flows very well, is that none of this is necessarily new. And of course, we highlighted previous reports. Of course, we could highlight previous conversations and discussions and events and presentations that I'm sure you've heard. Now, I don't see that as a bad thing. It might be a bad thing in the sense that we might feel we've not progressed as much as we want. But if the issues of 20 years ago are broadly the same as they are now, then perhaps, as Andrew described to us, we have lots of things that we can build on. We have lots of good practice. We have lots of behaviour and culture that we can immediately refer to and draw from. So we don't need to feel like we're eating an elephant because we've already made a good start on eating these particular elephants. None of this is new, and from a skills point of view, one of the things I wanted to highlight is that a lot of the information, a lot of the facts, a lot of the research that we feel we might need does already exist. And in preparing for this presentation, I have actually prepared, honestly. In preparing for this presentation, I took a look at a huge amount of information that's already out there that talks about skills issues and skills priorities. Just as an example of that, and there are many examples, but I'll use the work that we've done as CITB with the West of England Combined Authority. This is already in place, okay, so we don't need to do research. We know what we need to do. We can now get on with the doing it. The 5 priorities in relation to construction for the West of England Combined Authority, and LEP, associated LEP, improve careers education, information, advice and guidance, okay, so there's that careers bit. Improve the quality and local responsiveness of education and training, so that's the supply, isn't it, and the quality of that. Increase apprenticeships and improve access to higher and degree apprenticeships. It's those higher level skills that are needed. I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. Engage small and medium businesses to boost productivity and build capacity for growth, and promote pathways for employment to enhance equality and diversity. Okay, so lots of things there that have already been looked at, already been understood. When this all looks so big and difficult and where do we start, we've got ourselves a starting place already. That's defined for us and we can now move on from there. What's interesting to sort of pick that apart, careers, fair enough, we get that. Quality of education training, yeah, we can understand that. Apprenticeships, yeah, good. Engage, it says SMEs here, businesses, let's not use jargon. To boost productivity and build capacity for growth. The reasons we're doing these things are so that businesses can be productive and grow. They're not, so Nick James can say, I've delivered 100 whatever chair-making apprenticeships in the last year. And then the final one, as Mark has talked to us about recently, around promoting pathways, what is that, opportunities, isn't it, for employment in relation to equality and diversity. So it's all there, and that's just one example. That's the west of England, which covers this area, this immediate local area. We have similar strategies in place already for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, for the heart of the southwest and for Gloucestershire. So all of those, that kind of research base, those building blocks, they're already there. So let's not reinvent those. Another piece of research is the Construction Skills Network. That takes a broader southwest-wide view. Similar things do exist in other parts of the country for the lady that joined us from the northeast. And I'm not sort of saying this just to say because these are CITB-sponsored research pieces and so on and so forth. They tell us that the CSN for the Southwest, Construction Skills Network, which is a sort of labour market review and looks at the future trends and opportunities, tells us that we can expect 2% growth in the sector, and that brings with it a need for 2% recruitment. Lots of that driven by Hinckley, of course, but lots of it also driven by other projects and other trends and needs across the sector. What's interesting here is that the main employment demands are likely to be, or expected to be, forecast to be, in the non-manual occupations and in the higher level occupations. So this moves us away again, doesn't it, from if only we had more bricklayers, wouldn't the world be a better place? I'm sure it would. But it means that we should be collectively thinking much more broadly in the ways that Mark described to us. Who are the people that we need to fill those kinds of higher level, office-based, non-manual, whatever we want to call them, project-based occupations, because they are the things that we will need most of in order to be successful in this area in the next few years. And a really good example of that is, there are many examples, is logistics. So we can only build things if we can actually get them to the places in the first place. And of course that fits in a nice Venn diagram with the off-site discussion as well. CITB doesn't directly and isn't authorised, empowered, whatever word we want to use, to cover logistics. So we, us, must take a much broader view and think there are much more innovative and wider solutions to many of these particular skills-related issues. Challenges, Andrew did a cracking job telling us what those were. Give you a few skills-specific ones in the southwest, and not having anyone or anything particularly in mind here, but I'm pleased to see that it does actually fit with a lot of what Andrew was saying. So, firstly, there is an issue in the southwest when we look at the whole region rather than just us here in this room now, about how easy it is to do things, and by that I mean it's not always easy. So if we are in Cornwall, and I know this sounds a bit flippant, if we are in Cornwall, it's very difficult to get the sorts of services that we would get in Bristol or London or Bournemouth or wherever else. I think we need to acknowledge that, and we need to adapt our ways of working to make sure that we can deal with that. So when we look at what training opportunities and what employment opportunities and what behavioural type opportunities, as Mark was saying, are open to us, we do need to be mindful of the fact that lots of this can seem very difficult and very remote to many of the people that we're trying and wanting to help. Challenge of Hinckley. Many of you will be involved one way or another in the actual building of it rather than me just talking about it. So there are lots of individual specific challenges in relation to skills that Hinckley is creating. Can we get enough of this, that and the other at a particular point in a particular time? Not really any evidence yet, but tell me if I've got that wrong, of dramatic downside impacts on the rest of the sector in terms of everybody running off and working at Hinckley so nobody's doing anything else. But do please tell me if that's starting to happen or is wrong. I think, again, that's also about the ability, isn't it, to mobilise, to deliver, to be flexible, but also to think ahead. And finally, in terms of challenges, and again, previous speakers have talked about it, this wonderful word of productivity. So in our sort of semi-government circle of CITB, government talks to us about two things mainly. First is Brexit, and the second is productivity. How are you, CITB, going to make the sector more productive? Well, of course, we'll play our part because we'll train as many people as we can to do the right kinds of things. But productivity is a whole bunch of different business needs, behaviours, developments, isn't it? Around product development, around using modern methods of construction. And this is the controversial bit, isn't it? Because when I said earlier, do we need more bricklayers? The answer might be no. The answer might be we just need an ability to lay more bricks. And that might not be bricklayers. Discuss. I'm not saying that to be controversial. I'm just saying that as an example of the kind of continuous thinking that we need to be doing, the looking ahead, and the fact that, as we've said a few times now, that none of this necessarily needs to be particularly new, because things will always be changing, and we just need to know what those things are, be ahead of them, anticipate them, and be ready for them, and have our solutions and positions in place when they actually happen. So there's a bit of a skate through some challenges with a bit of skills feel to it, but hopefully a sense that you get that skills is just one component of this, and CITB is just one component of the skills piece in all of that. So I'm going to leave you with an opportunity, which is kind of counterintuitive to everything I've just been saying, so please bear with me. So an opportunity, which is the Construction Skills Fund. We have, CITB, recently been given £20 million by this government to support the creation and the delivery of a number of construction skills hubs. They're seen as being site-based. We're looking for sort of fairly big projects. We're looking at £1 million or so each project type thing in terms of investments in training that could be linked to modern methods, could be linked to productivity, could be linked to the inclusion and diversity. How do we get more people working in our industry? I'm not going to give you all the detail of that necessarily at this point. If you're able to, and I know it's very short notice, so forgive me, please. We only had this announced last week. We do have an event running in Exeter. We do get around the region. We do have an event running in Exeter next Tuesday, 25th, where you can get all the detail of this. And we also have a local meeting, just to reassure people, of ourselves with some of our West of England partners on the 5th of July as well. If you think you want to be involved in something like this, then please tell me or any of my other CITB colleagues who are here today, and we'll make sure that we connect you with the right people. I think I wanted to mention it here now, not because, here's some money, let's spend it, but because here is an opportunity. It's all very well me saying, it's a land full of opportunities. Here is one now, on a plate, that's happening now. The strength of this type of event can be the collective thinking, the bringing people together, which is what I mentioned at the beginning, and why I mentioned it, rather than me just going off into a huddle with Mark and saying, for the sake of argument, would Galliford try like £1 million? So please do talk to CITB about the Construction Skills Fund, if only because if it's not something that's necessarily suitable, the ideas you have, the thinking that you're doing, the future thinking, might be things that, hopefully will be something that we could work with you on in other ways as well. So I talked about skills issues. Some are very specific. Some are more general and broader and need more than just a CITB or a skills solution. Absolutely taking the broader view, and as I was listening to the earlier speakers, I thought Emma's description and presentation on the leadership issues absolutely must be addressed before we do any of the sort of tactical skills issues. And then I talked about opportunities, which are many and are ongoing and are wonderful. One particular one that we'd like you to be part of, as I said, is the Construction Skills Fund, and that's here and now. And if that is something that you think you'd like to be part of, then please talk to me in and around the event and to my colleagues who we've got here, who are Alistair, Chris and Roy. I'll leave it there, other than echoing Andrew's comments again. Surprise, surprise, we just need to do it. That's right, isn't it? Thank you, everyone.